I have started recording. Now, what is the difference between line number 5 and line number 9? Can anyone tell me?
Line number 5 is a variable.
Variable?
Number 9 is a constructor.
Constructor. Line number 5 is a variable. Line number 9 is a constructor. Now, constructor is a method, right? Constructor is a method, is a type of method. Now, line number what is called how do you differentiate between a method and a variable declaration? What how do you know, okay, this is a method, this is a variable?
Method has a name, like the constructor has the same name as the class name. Doesn't have public.
No, variable has private or public, like the method has public or private. It has a what it doesn't have a name. Okay, all right, so here this constructor, if you take a look, the way you identify, first of all the method, right? If you take a look, after the method name there is a parenthesis, and then there is a curly bracket, and then inside the curly bracket you have the statements of the method. Variable, when you declare a variable, it will not have any parenthesis. You got it? Now can you see the method that you have in line number 10, which we are calling constructor? It has a access specifier if it is public or private, number one, and we are giving the name of the constructor, and then we have a parenthesis, right? And then our curly bracket is starting, and then curly bracket ended in line number 16. So whatever we have in between is the body of the constructor. Okay. And then if is, can you see inside line number 10, there is, inside the parenthesis there is no argument, is that correct? But in line number 18, can you see inside the parenthesis you have int, id, double, balance, right? So line number 10 we are calling it non-parameterized constructor. Line number 18 we are calling it parameterized constructor. Line number 18 is parameterized constructor. Okay, parameterized constructor. We will learn it more. Now if you take a look, line number 23. Line number 23 is what? Is a method, right? What is the difference between like this method, line number 23, and line number 18? So first of all, line number 23 is not a constructor, right? Because the name here, get monthly interest, is not same as account, right? So not a constructor, it is a method, right? It is a method. What is the difference between line number 18 and line number 23?
Has to have the same name as the account number, account name, and method cannot have the same name as the account name, like the class name.
Okay. Do you see any difference between line number 18 and line number 23?
One is a print out, like the method print something, but the constructor is not printing. Just
look, so now it is what you have in the body, what you have in the body, right? Can you see line number 23 is returning a double value, is that correct? It is returning a double value. Now both of your constructor, parameterized or non-parameterized, is it returning any value? No. So one key difference between a method and a constructor will never ever return a value. A constructor will never return a value. A method can return a value. If you do not want to return a value, you have to put void. Like public double, you put here public double, right? If you do not want to return anything, then you will be putting public void. Do you understand? Last class we have discussed. So, so now the difference between a constructor, a key difference between a constructor and a method is a constructor will never have a return type. Can you see after public, do you have anything void, double, integer in the constructor name? Public, you have account. Do you have anything in between public and account? Void, double? No. A constructor will never have a return type. You got it? Okay. Now what you are doing in the parameterized constructor, can you see line number 18? So parameterized constructor is when you declare an object, you will have to give value. We'll discuss it. Now line number 23 in this method, right? Get monthly interest rate. So it will be returning the annual interest rate. Remember, if you we will take a look in this example when you declare an. So if you go back to your caller, your previous method where you are calling this, go there, go there in the other method where you are calling. Now can you see in line number 6 you are declaring an object. You are declaring an object new account, right? Account, you are declaring an object of account type. Now if you put a breakpoint on line number 6 and then do a debug execution. Yep. Okay. See. Okay. Now if you go step by step, can you see in the navigate uh, um, here, if you put hold on here, can you see there are two yellow arrow, one is under navigate and one is under search. Can you see these two yellow arrow? No, over there under your menu bar, can you see yeah, to step over, and another one in the left is the step into, right? So we'll do step into. Now before we do step into, Nipa, can you see on your right hand side of the screen, do you have any variable at the moment? No variable, right? Now in line number 6, what you are doing, you are declaring an object, right? Now from the definition of constructor, what we have learned, when you declare an object of the class, if there is a constructor, the constructor will be automatically called. Is that correct? When the constructor will be called, what will happen? If you click on that account class, uh, up, yeah. When the constructor will be called in line number 10, then what will happen? ID, the variable ID will be 0, balance will be 500, annual interest will be 4.0. You will see this 4 variable. How do you know this constructor is called? If you see these 3 variable in the right hand side, then you know this constructor is automatically called. Is that correct? Okay. Now go to your account test, yeah, and then click on that, yeah, step into. Mhm. Okay. When you did click on one more time. Now can you see it came into line number 10? Line number 10 is what? Is constructor. And have you called constructor, or constructor is automatically called? Is that correct? Yeah. Now step into again. Oh, step into will be, you will have to execute a lot of things. So let's do step over now. Step over. Next one, yeah. Okay. Now, yeah, do one more time. Step over. Yeah, over. One more time. Now can you see that it is putting, now you'll see that id equal to 0. Do a next step over again. Okay, can you see? Yeah. Can you see this? Can you see this? There is a this now. If you click on this, there is a arrow on the left hand side. There is a on that this, right? Can you see the arrow on the left side of this word? Yeah, click on that. Can you see id balance? It is putting value in this variable, right? Now id equal to 0, and then if you keep doing it, right? Execute next line, right? You see, okay, you see that when you have, when you are declaring the object, it is automatically calling the constructor and initializing the value of the constructor. Is that correct? Okay, so that is what constructor does, and that constructor particularly is a default constructor. It doesn't have any parameter. Okay, keep doing, execute your line number. Yeah, and then now you can do step into. Okay, now here, remember, when you have called that method, what you have supplied, get monthly interest, what you have supplied from your account test, what you have supplied. Now if you go to the account test, yeah, account test, when you have called that line number 7, what value you have supplied? 2. And then this 2, what is the container that hold that 2? Now if you go to account, so this 2 is now annual, in annual rate, right? Now it will give a message here, monthly interest rate. Okay, execute that line. Okay, now you have double return type here, right? So you are returning that 2 again, whatever value you have passed, right? You are returning it from here. Yeah, click next. Okay, so here, right, basically monthly interest, it is printing that line, but it is not printing any value because you have returned it. And then after you have returned it, have you stored it in any, so to print that value, so few things you will have to note here, that it will not print any value here because you have only like what you did from your account class, right? If you go there,
Printed here.
yeah, so if you want to print it here,
Mhm.
so what you want to print, put it in the parentheses.
I'm sorry, I didn't even realize that.
So if you want to print something here, then like this method that you are calling in line number 7, right? It's returning a value. It is returning a value, but have you stored this value to a variable? No. So you'll have to store this value into a variable to print it. Or what you can do, instead of, no, you do not have to declare a value, variable here. So what you can do, instead of creating another variable, you can copy line number 7. You can copy line number 7 and put this whole thing, in the, remove the double quote inside the, yeah, put it here and remove that semicolon, yeah, and you can remove line number 7. You can remove line number 7. Okay, and then what you are doing, withdraw, right? When you are doing withdraw, let's take a look what you are doing inside withdraw. With you can stop execution. Let's take a look. You can stop execution, and let's take a look what you are doing in the withdraw method. So in the withdraw method, you are again returning a value. And returning whatever you are passing, okay, then you are returning it. So let's say that in the interest rate, right? Let's say you are doing whatever interest rate you are passing, you are doubling it inside the method. So what you will have to do, you will have to put annual interest rate equal to, in line number 25, in line number 25, put annual interest rate equal to, you can copy this whole variable name, it's a big variable name. Annual interest rate equal to annual interest rate, yeah, paste it again, times 2, times 2, put semicolon. Okay, and then in line number, after line number 30, press enter. Okay, here let's do W equal to W times 2. Okay, and then in line number, in deposit, right? Deposit, in deposit, here let's say that your you are depositing some amount, so let's do another line after line number 36, D equal to D times 2. 2. Okay, then go back, let's go back to your account test class and put system out println, and yeah, yeah, after, you can copy line number 7 and then put it after line number 8, and then copy this, yep, and then put it, yeah, put it here. You remove yeah, remove it, yeah, and then create another line. Yeah, now let's do so do a debug execution again. Yep. Okay, and then, yep, okay, now we are in the yeah, do it. Okay, now can you see what is happening? Monthly interest, you have supplied, like in the interest, what you have supplied and what you have supplied, 2, right? 2, and inside the method, what you did inside the method, what you did, you have multiplied that 2 by another 2, right? And then you are returning that annual interest rate, right? So before you return it, what you have done, before you
Sorry, multiplied it by 2.
multiplied it by 2, and when you are returning it, it is going back to the caller class, is that correct? Okay, so yeah, so if you go back to your account, now can you see when it is printing, although you have supplied 2, now it is printing 4. Why? Because in the when you have called that method, you have multiplied it by 2. Does it make sense? Okay, okay, very good. And then if you look the withdrawal amount, right? Withdrawal amount you have supplied 100, but when it is printing here from line number 8, how much it is printing? 200. Why? Because you have multiplied it by 2 in the method. In line number 31, you have multiplied it by 2. Does it make sense? Okay. And then now deposit. What will happen to the deposit if you execute?
Multiplied by 2.
Go ahead, Nabed.
Why we are doing like multiplying?
So this is to understand. This program is not like purposeful. Okay, do something, but to for your understanding, right? How this mechanism works, right? This program that she did is not like for any purpose. Okay, this is just for your understanding how you manipulate values. You understand how you manipulate these values?
But if we don't want to multiply, we just keep it d is equal to 2.
Yeah, if you do not want to multiply, you keep it, and then it will be printing the same thing. Supply here. The understanding point, Nabed, is when you are supplying a value and you modify it and you are returning it. Do you understand this? That you are supplying a value to method and then you are modifying it and then you are returning it to the main method, and then from there you are printing it. You got it? Like it is something like this. Let's say you have a water filter, you supply water into that filter, and then the filter, what it does the purification, and then it gives you a modified water, and then you drink it, right? So this each of this method you can consider like this. You are supplying something into that method, and then it is doing something with that particular item, and then it is returning back to you. Okay, this is a mechanism we need to understand. So here, now Nipa, do you have a question like what we did so far in this one?
What is this right here? ID equals 220, ID equals 227.
So
Underbound.
so these are some system thing we do not have to understand. This is not, you need to understand what variable you have declared. You need to understand if how this value of these variables are being modified. Only those part, if you understand, that will be enough. Okay, so here, like this id equal to, like when you have declared an object of the account class, it is giving an id of that object. That's it. Okay, so here now, so what happened, what happens here? Let's say that if you if you um, if you let's say you have another method, where can you, after line number 40, if you put another method, let's say display all the values, like name a method display all the values.
Is it public?
Public, yeah, public, and we are not going to return anything from it, so you say public void and then say return sorry, not return, display all values. Mhm. Println, and this, like, just put id inside, yeah, put id. Mhm. And then go to the next line, do another system out println. here you print balance and then create another line. Okay, here you print your annual interest rate. Okay, now, so have you supplied any value here to this method? No. Now call that method from there, from your account test.
Display all value.
Mhm. Now what do you do, Nipa? Just go there in that account. Um, yep. Here, can you see print ln, right? Ln, before ID, put a double quotation. Before ID, put a double quotation. Yeah. Put here, okay, ID equal to, and then after the double quotation, put a plus here. And same thing you do for balance and all that. Mhm. Okay. So, so here now, if you print this, then what will happen? If you now, if you execute it directly, let's say, can you see you are still on the debug mode? If you stop debugging by clicking on that red button, if you execute it, just do an execution. Okay. Now, what do you see?
Printing the ID balance and annual interest rate.
So it is printing ID equal to 0, balance equal to 500, and annual interest equal to 4.0, right? Where is it getting this value? When it is printing, where is it getting this value?
Coming from the constructor,
Mm-hmm.
the balance, the constructor.
Constructor interest rate, annual interest rate is coming from constructor. So I see that you have put 7, line number 7, you have put 4.0, and then in line number 14, you have 4.0. You do not need that over there because you are initializing. So even though, right, you are not calling constructor, but still your method is able to use this value. Is that correct? That you have declared in line number 41, it is able to use the value that you have initialized in the constructor. Does it make sense? Okay, very good. All right. So now, can you see you have a parameterized constructor? Guys, so far, do you have any question like here? The understanding point here is okay. We are executing this line, and because we are executing this line, something is happening, right? So your understanding point, okay, it is happening. Why it is happening, right? Do you understand why it is happening? You see that we have in the output now id equal to 0, balance equal to 500, annual interest equal to 4.0, right? Why we like these values are displayed here? These values are displayed here because we have a method here in line number 41 from where we are displaying all of this value. We are putting this value in the output. That's why these values are coming in the output. Does it make sense? Okay. So now in line number 18, can you see id equal to 0? Instead of id equal to 0, can you see that int id? Can you see public account int id in line number 18? Can you see 18? So put here id param. Put p uppercase param, and then double balance, right? Put balance param. Just to add a word param at the end. Now id equal to, put id equal to id param. id equal to id param. Param. Balance equal to balance param. Param, right? Okay, hold on here. Now, so what we will do, guys, now go back to your account method, account test, right? Here, can you see that your object and then this? Can you comment out your line number 7, 8, 9? Now, how many types of constructor you have in your account class? Two types. One is default constructor that is not taking any parameter. Another one is parameterized constructor. Is that correct? Okay, very good. Now, in line number 6, you have, when you have declared the object, what constructor was called? The default constructor. The default constructor was called. But you have another constructor that is taking two parameters, right? If you go back to your account, you will see that you have another constructor in line number, you have another constructor in line number 18 that is taking two integer type, one integer type and one double type parameter. Is that correct? Okay. Now we are going to create an object, copy, no, keep line number 6 wherever it is, copy that line and paste it after line number, actually, yeah, after line, yeah, paste it here. Now we are going to supply two value. One is 10, interest rate 10, and balance, let's say 5,000 or 10,000. 10,000, and then we are calling display values, right? Now if you so here, can you see a object? You already have given an object name, variable name. You cannot give the same name in line number 7. You put, you put another name, a object 1. Okay. Now can you see, now when you call a object and display values, can you see a object and display values? And now a object 1 and display values, can you call the same method by a object 1? Okay, now now you run your code. Okay, so what do you see? Like, can you make the output screen bigger? Okay, so if you take a look, right? If you take a look, your in the first part, ID equal to 0, balance equal to 500, interest rate equal to 4.0. This is from the default constructor. Like this three line came when you called a object dot display all values. Then what constructor was called? Default constructor. In the default constructor, you have initialized ID equal to 0, balance equal to 500, annual interest rate equal to 4.0. Now, when you have called the same method, a object 1 dot display all values, then what you got? ID equal to 10,
Yeah, 10 and balance equal to 10,000.
balance equal to 10,000, and annual interest rate equal to 0. Why?
Any parameter
Yeah, we
for
didn't
annual
put any
interest.
parameter for annual interest, so that's why it initialized it to 0. You got it? So can you see you have called basically same method, display all values. You have called the same method, but you have called this two method by two different objects, right? One object was calling the default constructor and another object was calling the parameterized constructor. Okay, now in line number 7, if you want to put another value, right? Let's say in line number 7, right? In line number 7, if you want to put another value, yeah, let's put 15, but it will throw an error because you do not have a constructor. Like when you declare object, how many value you can put is how many, if your constructor is able to take that many values. So you will have to put another parameter. Yeah, put another parameter by comma. Let's say double and annual interest rate. Right? And then can you see balance after balance equal to, you put annual interest, actually param, yeah, put annual interest rate equal to annual interest rate param. Okay, and then now if you run it one more time, okay, if you run it one more time, actually hold on, okay, before you run it, can you see in your default constructor you put a system out println and default constructor, put a similar system out statement in your parameterized constructor as well. Mhm. Parameterized, me parameter meter, parameterized, yeah, parameterized constructor. Okay, you got it. So now if I ask you, what is the difference between default constructor and parameterized constructor, how will you answer it?
Constructor will display that.
Yeah, default constructor will not take any parameters, and then parameterized constructor will take parameters. When you declare object, right, when you declare object, however many parameter you have specified in the constructor, it will be able to take that many values. Does it make sense to everyone, guys? Now can you ask me question, and whatever question you have in mind?
Printing default constructor and parameterized constructor
If
like together.
Okay, default constructor and parameterized constructor together, because right, if you go to your account test, remember in line number 6 you have created the object for the, and in line number 7 you have created another object, right? So since, like, when you are calling line number 6, then default constructor is being called, and then when you are calling line number 7, then the parameterized constructor is being called, right? So that's why it is printing together. If you put your line number 11 after line number 6, now if you control V, now if you run it, you got it. Okay. So any question up to this? Okay, let me give you a, like, to understand this default constructor and the parameterized constructor, right? Now if I ask you to define what is constructor, constructor is a method that is automatically called during object creation. When you create object, your constructors will be called. Okay, and then your default constructor will not take any parameters. Parameterized constructor will take parameters. Okay, the constructor will have same name. The constructors will have same name as the class name. The constructor will not have any return type. Does it make sense to everyone? Okay. Now let me take control and let me explain a little bit more about these constructors, so that your understanding is clear and so that you can ask me question. So let me just
You're gonna explain something else.
Yeah.
On the student class.
Yeah, I'll be explaining something else. Yeah, that's right. So here, let me start sharing and explain this stuff that I want to discuss. Nahid bhai, can you hear us? How is everything going with you? Mashallah, mashallah. Yeah, everyone is waiting for the good time.
The constructor, the declarationটা তোমার যে নিয়ম, constructor, the same constructor should be the same name of the class. And one more thing, the constructor আরেকটা জিনিস যেটা আমার কথা হচ্ছে যে যখন আপনার কলার ক্লাসে আপনি একটা অবজেক্ট ক্লিয়ার করলেন, অবজেক্ট ডিক্লেয়ার করলেন, তখন একটাতে আপনি ভ্যালু পাস করছেন। ভ্যালু পাসটা যেহেতু আপনি কনস্ট্রাক্টরে অলরেডি একটা ভ্যালু দিয়ে দিচ্ছেন, আইডি, তারপরে ভেরিয়েবল গুলো অলরেডি একটা ভ্যালু ক্যারি করতেছে, তারপর আপনি অবজেক্টে যখন ডিক্লেয়ার করছেন ওটা তার একটা ভ্যালু দিচ্ছে। জিনিসটা একটু ক্লিয়ার করবেন ভাই।
এটা ক্লিয়ার করার জন্য আমি I'm going to bring more examples so that you understand this clearly. Okay, I'm bring, let's have this discussion. So let's say that I'm going to go back in my project explorer and in my classes and objects here.
Sorry, Donovan, I have a question. If you close a program from the Eclipse, I tried to follow your video to find out how to get that program back, but it doesn't display after I.
Okay, let me show you. I get what you are trying to explain. So let's say that these classes and objects, right? These classes and objects. If I right click on this and if I click on properties, then you will be able to see where this program is located. Can you see? It is located under this one. It is located. Now let's say I right click and delete it, and make sure that delete project contents on disk. You do not select this. You say okay. Do you see that classes and objects here? No. Now you want to bring that, you want to open that here, right? So what you do, right click and then can you see import? Click on this and then what is that thing that you want to import is a Java program. Is that correct? Projects from the file system. You want to bring existing projects into workspace. Is that correct? Your existing project and then you browse. Then where your project located? Your project located in this path, right? And what was the name of your project? Classes and objects. Is that correct? Folder and then say finish. Now after you have done your finish, can you see your classes and objects is again here? That is how you break.
It doesn't display my program. I don't know why.
You want to give another try? So we will, but the process is this. Let me discuss the part and then I'll give you another chance to bring your project. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, sure. Okay, so in this one, right, in this one, let's talk about this constructor and destructor. Okay, so let's say that here we are going to declare a class here, new, let's say new class. We are going to name it as box, and then the class name is box. Okay, the class name is box, and we are going to bring a main method. Okay, okay, this is my box class, and inside my box class, like this is my box class, I will have another class here for another purpose. So this is my main class, and inside my main class there will be another class. Let's say I'm going to declare, so can you see this is my class, and I can declare another class here, or I can declare another class outside of it. Let's say let's do it class box, and in the box class let's not have the main method. This box class is the class. Now here, let's say that I have three variables. A box has width, height, and depth. Is that correct? So I'm going to say double height, depth. Right? So actually, yeah. So you understand, right? A box will have width, height, and depth, right? And then what we are going to do is, if you want to calculate the area of that box, if you want to calculate the area of that box or volume of that box, so how do you calculate volume of a box? Guys, can you help me? How do you calculate the volume of a box? You multiply width, height, and depth. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Width, height, and depth. So let's, yeah, okay, no problem. So let's say that we have a method that will be calculating the volume of that box. Volume of my box. Okay, volume of my box, and then it will be, this method will be returning the volume of my box. Now what I will have to do, right? I'll have to do a return, and then in the return I'll have to do what? Width times height times. Okay, now, so let's say that you have at the moment you have this three instance class variable, right? And then you have a method. You do not have any kind of constructor or anything, right? Now if you, let's say you have this caller class, from the caller class, let's say whatever I have previously, or let's say I'm going to create another class called box demo. New class, I'm going to create this class as box color. I'm going to include this main method here, and inside the box color, if you want to call this volume method, what you will have to do, first of all, you will have to create an object. Is that correct? You will have to create an object of this box class, box obj equal to new, and then box, right? Is that correct? You have now created the object. Now by this object, box obj dot, if you put a dot, then you should be able to, box obj dot, you should be able to get this. If you put a dot operator after the box, you should be able to, can you see volume here? Guys, can you help me? Volume of my box, right? Now, so here guys, let's say that what is happening here, can you see? This is returning a value. When you are returning a value, you will have to, let's say that if you put here double volume equal to, now whatever you are returning from there, it is coming into this volume variable, right? Then you put a system out print Now if you run it, let's say here you put a message here, volume equal to, and then you put a plus. Okay, now if you run this, what do you see? Volume equal to what? Guys, can you help me? Volume equal to 0.0. Why volume equal to 0? Because you have the variables, but you didn't put any value in the variables. Is that correct? You didn't put any value, and that's why when you do not put any value, it by default it puts 0. Okay, so that's why we are getting our volume equal to 0. So here, if you want to create a default constructor, guys, if you want to create a default constructor, how do you do that? You put a public, and then you do not put any return type. You put your class name, and then you put your parentheses, and then you put your weight equal to 5, right? And then height equal to 10, and then depth equal to 5, right? Now if you execute, what will happen? Let's say that now if you execute, you will see that your box, the volume of your box is 250. How? In here, in your box color, you only called the volume of my box. Have you called this constructor public box? But even though you didn't call them, right? Even though you didn't call them, but still when it calculated the volume, it has used this value. Is that correct? How was it able to use this value? Because this is a constructor. When you create an object in line number 6, right, the constructor will be automatically called, and when the constructor will be called, these variables will get values. Does it make sense? So that is what, like, if you have some variables, and if you want to have some initial values in this variable, then what you do, you put this variable in the constructor and initialize the value with the value that you want. You got it? So this is what is default constructor. Doesn't have any parameters. Now let's talk about, we said there is another type of constructor that we are calling parameterized constructor. So in parameterized constructor, I'm going to copy this, okay, and then I'm going to put it here, right? And I'm going to put here 3 parameters, okay, int or double, whatever you type is, double w, and then double height, and then double depth, right? And then actually I'm not going to put this whole word here, double h, and then okay, and then then here in the width I'm going to put this W. I'm going to put this H. I'm going to put this D, right? Now I'll be going back to my collar, and then here I'm going to create another object. I'm going to name it box object 1, and remember I can supply values here. Since I have that constructor, I can supply values here. I'll be putting 10, 10, 10. Okay, I cannot put another value. If I want to put another value, it will throw an error message, right? It will complain that if you put your cursor here, you see the constructor box int is undefined. Can you see? 4 value we do not have it, so we can only put 3 value. Now by this one, right? By this one, let's say volume equal to box obj 1 dot volume of my box, right? And then if you print this now, volume from default constructor, right? And then if you print here now, you come here, you put your volume from parameterized constructor, right? Now if you run these two programs, you will see this. Okay, now can you see volume from default constructor is 250 and volume from parameterized constructor is 1000, because 10 times 10 times 10 is 1000, right? So here when you have called here, right, by box object, when you have created box object, what parameter constructor was being called? The constructor was called, this constructor was called, that doesn't take any parameter. But when you have created that box object 1, then which constructor was called? The constructor was called was this constructor, right? And then if you call this method by this object, then can you see, according to the constructor, whatever value you supplied when you have created the object, you have supplied 3 values, right? These 3 values are coming into WHD, and then this WHD is going to width, height and depth, and then when you calculate, it will get the value that you are passing. So let's say that if you pass 15 times whatever, you will see that your value will be changing accordingly. Okay, your value will be changing accordingly. So this is what is default constructor and parameterized constructor. Now you come up with your question. Let me see what type of question you have.
Box name is same, but it doesn't affect anything.
Which one?
The name are same, the box default one and then construction one, both are the same name, the box. Doesn't impact anything.
Which box? Can you point out? Is it line number 6 that you are pointing?
Yes, the 6 and 10.
6 and 10. Now can you see when you have created the, what are we doing in line number 6? We are creating object of the class. If you do not create object of the class, you cannot call any method, right? So when you are creating the class, can you see you can give some values here, or you may omit, okay, I'm not going to give any values. If you do not give any values, the default constructor will be called. If you give values, right, depending on if you have a constructor, you can give values. So we have a constructor here, right, with this parameters it is taking. So that's why I was able to give 3 values. And when I give 3 values, remember that when you, let's say that when you have this object, right, when you have this object will have this 3 variable. And then when you have another object, this object will have another copy of this 3 variable. They are not same, right? If you say box object dot width and box object 1 dot width, it is 2 different things. So let's say that if you put a print statement here, system dot out dot println, right? If you put box object dot width, right? If you print it versus if you print box object 1 dot width, right?
Different thing.
Two different things. How?
One is box object, one is box object one.
Box of, when you have box object, then the constructor that was called is this one. The width is 5. Now when you have box object 1, then the constructor called is this one, right? This one. And in this constructor, width is whatever you are supplying from here, it is going to go width, right? So this will be printing 5, whereas this will be printing 15, right? If you now execute it, right, can you see it has printed 5, it has printed 15. So each of the objects that you are declaring here will have their own instance of this variable. You got it? Okay, so now, yeah, let's move forward. Whatever question you have, let's move forward, because depending on your understanding, right, depending on your understanding, I will have to give more work to you, right? So and to make sure that you are able to ask me question, and based on your understanding you are able to do some work. Question.
No question here.
পরের অবজেক্ট লেয়ারিং এ প্রথমে যেটা দিচ্ছেন হচ্ছে একটা ডাবল ভলিউম দিচ্ছেন, মানে ওটা ভ্যালুটা আপনি ডাবলে রিটার্ন চাচ্ছেন। সেকেন্ডটাতে আপনি ভলিউম ইকুয়াল টু মেথডে ওটা আপনি ডাবল মানে ইয়া করেন নাই,
because I reused that variable. I declared it once and I reused it here.
you already declared it. It is the same thing. That's why I was confused, that because both are returning the double result, but you just declared once double.
Yeah, if you declare a variable once, then you can, like, let's say you bought a bag from Walmart, reusable bag, and every time you go to Walmart you use this bag to bring your groceries. Okay, now any further question on default constructor and parameterized constructor?
Box
What is that?
ক্লাসটাতে গেলেন, এটা তো কলার মানে ওয়ার্কিং ক্লাস বক্স। এখানে কনস্ট্রাক্টর যে মেথডটা থাকবে এটা অলওয়েজ পাবলিক করতে হবে।
Constructor always public. Actually, if you do not put public, then what it is? If you do not put public, then what? then it is default will work, okay, because you are under the same package. Remember, if you put private, you cannot put private before a constructor, because when you put private, because this constructor will be called when you declare object, and when it is trying to like when you declare object, it is going to call the constructor, and it will not be able to call because it is private. So
পাবলিক ডিক্লেয়ার না করে তো বাই ডিফল্ট তো ওটা
yeah, by default it will work. Only thing, you cannot put private before the constructor. And you cannot put a return type in the constructor. Never ever, okay?
রিটার্ন
No return type, no private in the constructor.
করে
No problem. Any further question, guys?
No.
Okay. Definitely, guys, you have to practice a lot on this. No way. Like, we are passing values to a method, right? And then we are getting values out of the method. If you do not practice it, it will be difficult for you to move forward. So I have sent few of the exercise last week. I'm going to send few more exercise regarding constructor and other thing, so that when you do them, your understanding will be further clear. And if you have any difficulties, I'll be doing it in front of you, so that your understanding is further clear. But you have to practice a lot on this part, so that your understanding is clear. Okay. So with that, Nipa, I want to go back to your screen to see like what issues you are facing in bringing your.
I was able to pull it up.
Okay, that's good. Now, so during our last week's session, how many exercise I have given you to complete? I think 3 or 4 exercise I have given, right? There were a class can be 1 second, let me see. You will see there are so many exercise in the whole. At the end, there were 3 exercise: assign and print roll number, phone number, and address of 2 students having names Sam and John. Write a program to print the area and perimeter of a triangle having sides of 3, 4, 5. Right? There were 3 questions, and then in between, let's do it. There were few questions with let's do it, and then there was a brainstorming questions, right, in the slide. So I would, so from you, each of these examples that I have in the have in the slide, I want you to type it in your computer and practice it. Can you see, this is a code that I would like to you type it and you practice it in your computer. And like you create, like, can you see here in my I have created a project, classes and object, and inside that I'm writing all of my classes. So you will be creating a project, classes and objects, and inside there you will be practicing all of these constructor related, all of this variable related thing inside that project, so that when I'm bringing another chapter, those examples will be going to the another project. Okay.
Inside one project.
Inside one project, you will have multiple classes. Yeah. Okay.
The project is the
Classes and objects.
class.
Because I'm having lot of other discussion, variables, data types, right, and then decision making, looping, right. Every chapter there will be a project folder here where you will be creating corresponding examples in the chapter. So make sure I'm going to send this recording and few examples by the end of tomorrow. So what your task is, you do these examples, you practice it, and you send it to me as soon as possible, and so that in the next class I have a plan to discuss a couple of chapters. So it is like your understanding, your practice, then we can move forward. Okay. Any further question, Navel? Like you had few confusion. Is it making more sense at this point? Okay. So again, it is making sense now, but later on it might not make sense. I understand this. You practice. If you cannot make thing, I will help you in making it. But remember, if you do not practice, I cannot put things in your brain. You have to put enough due diligence here. This is pure computer science thing. If you do not put your due diligence, if you do not invest time, then you will be totally lost. Okay? To know in the next week, okay, I will be asking you how many hours you have practiced. I want to hear, okay, how many hours you have practiced. Please keep a track, like how many hours you are practicing, okay? All right, guys.
You didn't show us the student.
Oh, student. So one other thing that I wanted to show you before I summarize this session. So let's say that, let me ask you a question, right? The question that I am asking, okay, let's say that I am asking you this. Okay. Number one, write a program that will take two numbers from keyboard input, right, and add these numbers, right? So the question here, write a program that will take two numbers from keyboard input and then it will add these two numbers. So let's say that I'm going to use my package one again. So I'm going to create a class here. KB input and this. Okay. So here, right? Can you see this is a class? Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is very simple. To take input from keyboard, you will have to have scanner object. Scanner, C O B J equal to scanner. Okay. Now, when you do this, what scanner, where do you want to take input? You want to take input from keyboard. For keyboard, it is system dot in. And then you have to import corresponding library. Okay. Now you have the scanner object. So let's say you have two double variable, double A, B, and result. A equal to, now you can use this scanner object dot next double. You put the output message here before that, system dot out dot println input a value. Okay, and then you put next input another value, and then you put it in B, and then you say result equal to, our variable is result equal to 3 plus B, then system dot out dot println. Now you put your result here. Yes, right. Now if you execute it, okay, Now input a value, right? Let's say I'm inputting 10, and then input another value. I'm inputting 15. Now can you see result equal to 25? That is how you take input from keyboard. You will need a scanner object. You have to declare it in that way, and then by that scanner object you can say next double, next empty, next string, and then you can, it will ask you, okay, take value. It will be giving you option here to take value from keyboard. Does it make sense now how you take values from input? Right. So when you are getting student information from keyboard, you can use that scanner object. You can get value from keyboard and you display it instead of hard coding the value in your code. Does it make sense, Nipa? Okay. So that is what, like, how you take input from keyboard. When you say enter value from keyboard, you input it in that. Okay. With that, are we good if we summarize and end our session here today, guys?
Okay.
Yeah. So I would like to see your progress, and your progress will basically make me happy. So make progress, and let's make progress together. Okay. So I had, I had a plan to discuss a few other things today regarding, data types, right? Variables and data types, but it seems like we'll have to wait a little bit before you come up to this, and we will be discussing more. Let's have this understanding clear, and then we'll bring further things. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you all again for your time. Let me know if you have any issue, and we'll talk again on Sunday at 2 and at 10 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Welcome.
Also.